Oh, hi. I didn't see you standing there. You want to come in? You want to see something scary? Hey, Cinners, how you doing? You're listening to the Sinful Cuts podcast, the podcast where Sean O'Connor and Shannon Bushman-Montalbano break down some of your favorite horror films. We take a look at all the decades, the wild, weird, and wonderful world of horror, and all it has to offer. So sit back, tune in, and have some fun. Here we go.
Hey, Cinners, I'm Shannon.
And I'm Sean.
And this is Sinful Cuts. Here with
right.
Matt from Macabre Daily.
So happy to be back.
Yay!
It's like riding a really fun bike.
Yeah.
You never forget.
Now, I will say though, Shannon, maybe we call Matt the owner of Macabre Daily now.
You think so? Maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I'm still trying it out for size, but yes, that's been a big change recently. Is that I've taken over control of Macabre Daily. Control sounds so formal. I've just taken over the management of Macabre Daily officially. And our founder and my partner, Sam, he's still with us on the site. So I'm really lucky to still have him contributing. But yeah, I'm excited about it. Excited to see where we're going to take it. Start doing some screenings, start sponsoring some more stuff. So more to come.
Yeah, we're so happy for you. That's so exciting for you.
Insanely exciting.
Congrats. Cheers.
I mean, I guess, cheers. Oh, my drink is too far away.
Well, I have a tea. So.
My millennial soda here, so my bubbly. It's
Before we get into BRAINSCAN, you two, I guess the only thing that Shannon and I are really concerned about is can you fire Lowell now on air? That would make us incredibly happy.
I'm holding that card up my sleeve because I know that Lowell's probably got something on me from all the time we recorded that he's like, Matt, you better wait to play that ace in your hole or ace in his hole. I don't know. We're putting aces in someone's hole. That's all I know.
I'm starting to figure out what he's got on you now.
Yeah. Oh God, we've gone too far. We can't go back now. Lowell, delete the tapes. I told you to delete.
We're only kidding, Lowell. This one goes out to you, buddy. We love you as well, and we'll be having you on the podcast too. But I swear, Lowell, we're not doing a Nightmare on Elm Street series because nobody wants to listen to an 18-hour podcast. Okay, so
listen.
Maybe we'll.
I've driven across country a couple times, so I can tell you that I've definitely yearned for someone who's like, I'm going to do a retrospective of every Amityville horror. I'm like, well, you've got me for the next 36 hours. So
you had
do your worst.
Amityville horror. All right, Sinners. Tonight we're talking about 1994's BRAINSCAN. So how did this come to be? Because BRAINSCAN is not really the movie that you'd maybe grab onto immediately. But Shannon and Matt have an affinity for this movie, and they put the challenge to me because I had never seen it before. So I sat down this week and I watched BRAINSCAN, and I have so many questions that I hope they can shed some light on. I don't think they can because it's not a very good movie at all. It is what is known as the ultimate guilty pleasure, right?
It definitely became that, I would say. Yeah, I think it became a cult classic after a while. Just like a little hidden gem, but it's not a gem. It's like a hidden piece of coal, maybe.
There's a diamond in there. If you squeeze it hard enough, there's a diamond in there. I'm pretty sure. But
okay.
I mean, I feel like it is so. The 80s often gets kind of talked about in the context of being the best decade for horror, and I think that's because we all have this kind of really rose-colored view of what is really a large chunk of very mediocre at best in cases movies. The 90s is full of mediocre at best movies. I mean, this is like the beginning of the straight to video, right? Straight to DVD, even, like, which was kind of like the next step below Subterranean, direct to consumer video. But I think we're getting to that point now where people are start to have enough time has passed between the 90s and now, where it's been almost 25 years since BRAINSCAN has come out. It's enough time to look back on it and being able to look at it and say, you know what? For what it was and when it existed, it's not great. But it definitely has a lot of memorable things that are memorable to it.
That's fair. That is fair.
That is fair, and it was like one of those movies too where it had potential, and when I researched it anyway, what I do have like kind of a theory, like maybe I'm not right on every corner, but I have a theory that there was a lot of finger pointing, and there was a lot of expectations because we'll get Sinners, we'll get more into it, but just kind of a quick gist. Eddie Furlong is the star of this film, and he was still riding the tailcoats of Terminator 2. So
Definitely.
I really think this kid, like, he skyrocketed, to Hollywood fame for that, fantastic action flick of a movie. And they put him in this movie thinking like, oh, he's just going to sell it. Because the director, John Flynn, I can't get this confirmed because I didn't really see it written anywhere. I didn't see him, no interviews where he actually said it, but allegedly he blamed Eddie Furlong for just being, he was an irresponsible 15-year-old kid. He always slept late and blah, 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 and this and that. But I'm like, Eddie Furlong wasn't the only bad actor in the movie. Okay. And we'll get more into it. Well, I'm going to break every single solitary one of them down.
You've got to let me.
But no,
let me do the hard yards though, because there.
Oh yeah, please. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but
there are two people that worked on this film that are good in their own right. Aside with the director John Flynn directed one of my favorite movies. Now it's a grindhouse movie, but it's incredible. It's Rolling Thunder.
Yeah, 1977. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Rolling Thunder, you got William Devane, Tommy Lee Jones. It is just it's one of Quentin Tarantino's favorite movies. He even named his production company after it. So you've got a director that, especially in genre, has made a name for himself. It definitely has a footprint. And then you've got Andrew Kevin Walker, who would write Seven.
Yeah.
And he's when the credits came up and I saw these two names, I'm looking at the TV and I'm going, what the fuck is happening to me right now? Because I know the
Everybody
reputation.
Starts somewhere.
Yeah, I know the reputation of this film. I know that it's got a cult reputation, but it's also known for being a guilty pleasure and not really very good. And I'm looking at these two names and I'm for a hot second, I was like, am I going to sit down to an incredibly good movie? I didn't, but I thought that for
that's where you went wrong, is the expectation setting. It's all about sitting down. Oh, this will be good because of these people. No, I mean, even Wes Craven and Toby, and especially Tobe Hooper, have some awful stinkers in their filmography.
It doesn't always work that way. Yeah, clearly with this movie, it doesn't work that way.
So I think what I'd like to do, gang, because you guys know a lot more about the movie, I'm going to hang back. I want you two to discuss the film, and I'm going to chime in with my questions that I hope you'll shed some light on, because my brain still hurts from BRAINSCAN, ironically enough. But all right, have at it, guys.
To be fair, it could have been this or Street Fighter. So
yeah,
I mean, of all the '90s movies, one of them would have melted your brain in a totally different way. I'm not sure which would be better, to be honest.
We have endless episodes to come. Don't count out Street Fighter.
I never would. That cocaine-filled performance, Raul Julia eating scenery. I mean, I won't go too much into it, but the same reason I love that movie, Kenji said the same reason why I love this movie, is that it has imprinted on me at a very early age, with things that were very much relevant to me at the time it came out. Eddie Furlong's he's a loner kid who likes horror and heavy metal. I mean, he quotes Fangoria to flip his cred within the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So immediately after that, you kind of get this traumatized loner teen who's like, all right, well, that speaks to, they know who their audience is. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
I'm gonna take a back seat in one moment, but I just have to point this out. No teenage girl in the history of teenage girls ever pined for a kid who read Fangoria. Okay, I'm talking from experience.
It's true. You would never be like, "Hey, I've got the poster issue." The one that had like all the fold outs. And you'd be like, oh, you have a fold-out issue? Yeah, and then you show them, and it's like gory and violent, and they're like, I'm going to call my parents now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm leaving.
Yeah, they're not like, oh, Michael. You know, I didn't even know if his name was
Matt,
Michael.
show me Jason Goes to Hell. No, you can't see it. Not yet. No.
Not yet.
There was none of that pining for Fango.
Oh, I was already pissed off about that false representation. But again, okay, backseat, have at it.
Do you want me to go over the plot real quick, Matt? Do you want to talk about that?
I'll let you go over that, Shannon, just because I feel like I would probably add too much of my own elaborations to try and sell it. So
I give it like literally the gist. Here's Sinners, for those of you who've never seen this movie. This is pretty much the gist of the story, where it's a, as Matt was saying, a traumatized teenager, but he's basically a loner teenager as part of an interactive video game where he kills innocent victims. Later, the murders become real. So basically, he starts this new video game. He says it in the very beginning that he's a big gamer, a big horror movie fan. He's trying to start like a horror club in the school. And obviously the principal or one of the teachers, I think it is, obviously keeps squashing him down, what have you. And, he comes across this video game and he's, rolling his eyes like, I played them all, whatever, and then the game apparently becomes real. Like he plays a one round and then all of a sudden starts seeing on the news the very man he killed. And that's pretty much how it starts. And it continues from there.
It's interactive CD-ROM, man.
Yeah. Dangerous stuff, man.
It's just so 90s.
Yeah. I loved computer games. I loved CD-ROM.
So that kind of goes to the first thing I think that kind of speaks to this movie is like, if you were of a certain age, when I say of a certain age, like if you're a millennial, you consider yourself a millennial, Gen X, you're probably in that category where you saw this movie when it came out and you're like, oh, I'm kind of like this person. I play video games too, but there is never anything like this. Like nothing ever promised like the ability to tap into your brain or anything like that. And this was also one of a few other interesting like techno horror movies that came out, like the Lawnmower Man came around this time.
Yeah.
And so did Arcade, which is like an even more depressing yet somehow PG-13 version of basically this movie. From Full Moons. So there's some interesting subgenre here of like kids left alone either by way of neglectful parents or by disastrous trauma that leaves them to these weird devices where they just get themselves into video game trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, this one was both.
Did you guys see that originally Andrew Kevin Walker had written the script and it was a VHS tape, which is very much like Ringu, I thought that was interesting, but of course, I feel like the studio made the decision. No, it's got to be a CD-ROM. It's the hottest thing.
They probably definitely did do that because, like I said, I loved it. Like one of my favorite games I think I've ever played, if anybody remembers this film, was Phantasmagoria.
Oh yeah, God, they made a sequel too.
Yeah, they did. I never played that one, but yes, that was like one of my favorite games I ever played. It was so cool.
And it came in like 7 CDs.
Yeah.
Like you get like just like these massive boxes you'd pick up at my God. Well, before it was software, etc., there was something else. And this is how you know how old you are when you start quoting like malls at the stores at the mall. Jesus Christ, how'd that get tied up? But this definitely felt like it was trying to be part of that FMV video game trend of hyperrealism by way of pixelated video.
Yeah. It probably was because it was huge at the time. But this one, so this one has the what do you call it? Like the main character, if you will, called the Trickster. That was played by T. Ryder Smith, who, I mean, I liked his character. I think Sean, if this, I don't know what questions you have just yet, but if this answer is one of your possible many questions, I do believe that they went into this movie like there were so many more scenes. His friend Michael, Eddie Furlong's character, has a best friend named Tyler, I think his name was. And he was supposed to get, Tyler does get murdered, but he was supposed to get murdered on camera.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of decisions where they nixed it for whatever reason, or there was like there was supposed to be a lot more in this film that we did not get.
I was
And
so confused that this
it's a
was an
little
R-rated
unfortunate.
movie. This is very PG-13. This movie.
Yeah. Well, I think they took out all the R-rated stuff for the most part and forgot to change it. I don't know.
Probably like a couple F-bombs in there that they didn't get out. Because
Maybe.
save for the first murder scene, it is pretty tame.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe the very first scene, which is the accident scene where his
Yeah.
you know, he's
Yeah, it's
supposed
kind
to
of
be
a gnarly way to open up.
Yeah, you know, it was like
Yeah.
10 years old with a busted knee. That was pretty nasty.
But yet that trauma really, I felt, let me know if you feel different or if you can shed some light on it. I feel like it was very the beginning scene is impactful. It resonates. Oh my gosh, this guy's got this limp. This kid's got this limp, and he's massively fucked up from this accident. The mother died, and you kind of feel like this is going to be like the linchpin. His trauma is really going to be the linchpin for like the resolution with the trickster. And it never happens. It's just like, oh yeah, this kid just happened to be in a pretty gnarly accident. I will say the trickster, and Matt, I'll apologize to you right now for for disparaging his name. My favorite part of the movie, and and the actor who played him, I thought did a fantastic job. I don't know. Oh well, I actually do know that Eddie Furlong and the trickster are in two completely separate films.
Yeah.
The trickster is in a.
Well, the trickster's like a techno Beetlejuice. Like he's just like
Yeah.
he's something like
That's a good way of putting it.
Beetlejuice and Kramer from Seinfeld.
Yeah. Just pops in out of nowhere. Like we're always causing a scene whenever he does. It's like, oh, this guy's annoying. He's not harmful, I guess, in the sense like he is like Kramer. Like he might cause some trouble, but he's actually not going to do any harm. Just makes CD discs out of blood. So whatever.
And he's just a really bad house guest or house visitor for the time.
Yeah, like Sinbad in that movie.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's dialing it up to 11, which is what the part calls for. So I really, really enjoyed the trickster, so much so that I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I was kind of let down that there isn't a franchise in BrainScan. Also, guys, I know the game was called BrainScan, but why did they settle on that for a title? There's so many better titles than BrainScan.
That's true.
What would you have named it?
Michael's fucked up knee is better than BrainScan.
Game over.
Right off
like it's just
game over.
Thank you, Matt. Now I know why you're the owner. All right.
Yeah. It's just it's an ADHD thing. It all just comes. They're not all good ones, but the ones that every now and they do, they're hot fire. But yeah, I mean, it is poor. I think it's just still. You can just tell whoever wrote this though, like, is writing it because they're 10 years removed from these characters that they're writing, at least. And they're trying to write them the way, like, how sometimes we see, like, we pick up on cringe dialogue now that's kind of feelings attributed to younger people where it's like, that's not really how they talk. So I think there is some of that. We're trying to make this relevant for the kids. But at the same time, it does give the sense that it is kind of like a very adult, it's a slightly more risque version of an Are You Afraid of the Dark episode.
What school did Andrew Kevin Walker go to where he had a principal or a teacher that would say, are you watching your pornography so you can get your erection so you can go out raping? I was like,
then he corrects him that erections don't rape people. So, that's the important part, that we know that.
That's when I hit pause and I went, what have Matt and Shannon done to me?
You got 90s.
Matt, you're absolutely right. I think it's someone writing who's a little bit removed from what they're writing about.
So, fun fact actually about that character. So, I think his name was David Hemblin. I think is how you say it. If I'm mispronouncing that, I apologize. And the friend Tyler, that was played by Jamie Galen. Again, not sure if that's exactly how you say it, but either way, I saw an interview with Jamie Galen, and he talked about, because now, remember, we all know Eddie Furlong was like 15 years old at the time. Galen was 26 at the time.
Oh my gosh!
So and I'm gonna segue into him in a second, because there's just something else about him that I find absolutely hilarious. But either way, he talks about how actually him and David Hemblin actually went out one night and got bombed. He's like, he was the complete opposite character of what he portrayed in the film. He's like, that guy was actually awesome. We just went out and got blasted. Went out to the bars. So maybe the very next day when he said that line, maybe he was very hungover.
Yeah.
It would explain a lot. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I mean, this movie does look like it was made over with hangover energy. Like there is a lot of like they just showed up. And again, T. Ryder Smith, what a name! Sounds like he could have made country music at some point.
Yeah.
You know, like he definitely feels like he's turning in a full coked performance. You know, just
hell yeah,
double barreled lines right to the nostril performance, which is fine because Furlong's is his morose kid is very morose.
Yes.
I
very
mean,
much
look,
so.
I don't want to disparage Eddie Furlong, but he's not a great actor. You know, I think he caught lightning with T2. You know, for sure. Holy cow! I mean, he should be thanking his management people for that one because I don't know how the hell he got T2. To be honest, with some of the actors that were auditioning for that role, I mean, that's like insane. But anyway, yeah,
he kind of got typecast because he did Pet Sematary 2 like 2 years after this, where he's playing this very similar character who's put through a lot of like similarly traumatic shit. In fact, there's a really dark hue across a lot of 90s movies that focus on kids like this, where like it's not like something bad happens to him, it's like something really bad. Like he watched his mom die and he got crippled in this movie. Like in Pet Sematary 2, I'm pretty sure he watches his mom die again, or his dad, one of his parents die. Yeah, and like his cat dies. Yeah. And so it's like, what the fuck? Like,
yeah.
Eddie Furlong looks like the kid who's either smoking too much weed or about to smoke too much weed or sold you too much weed. He just has that.
That was oregano.
And
that oregano.
Very much so. But I think
bubblegum.
Matt, to your point, he definitely got pigeonholed into that character type. You know, look, hey, personal demons aside, he is working again. And the funny thing is, he just made a movie called The Forest Hills with Kyle, his best friend from BRAINSCAN.
Oh, wow.
So good for those guys. I'm overjoyed that they
justice for Kyle. He did dirty in this movie.
Right? Somewhere on the cutting room floors is his death scene, and I kind of want to see it.
Yeah, no, you really do need to see. If you're going to take out a character like that, you got to show us the brutality. You can't shy away.
Yeah, for sure. I know we got cheated out of that one. I do think it would have made this movie that much more. It would have made it a little better, a little more memorable, possibly. So I don't know. I'm going to go with it was a possible studio decision on that part because when they were making Forest Hills, that's actually where I saw their interview. And I think they actually filmed it here because I know they were in Deer Park. They were in New York.
Oh,
they happened to mention that's where they were and doing this interview. But then they talk about BRAINSCAN for a little bit. That's how I found it. And I'm kind of going all over the place. I forgot what my point was. but
BRAINSCAN brings people together.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So I think we could all agree film doesn't age all that well with the stalking on both sides from the male perspective and the female perspective. So that, we got to get past that in the beginning. The little mutual stalking going on there. Okay. It was 94. I guess that was just the way things were.
Pre-American Pie. So perviness was still okay.
Yeah.
We just weren't having sex with pies yet, and watching people on the internet, but speaking through windows with telescopes was cool.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. I mean,
apparently.
As long as you got the latest issue of Fangoria. So we established that he's got the relationship with the neighbor across the way. By the way, guys, this film, just from the perspective of this, what was the shoot like? It had to have been insanely easy. This is really like a 2-location movie, and there's 5 fucking characters in the entire film. You know, so much of it takes place in Michael's pretty fucking rad little apartment with his own refrigerator.
He's got that loft basement room or that loft attic room,
right? It's pretty sweet.
Oh yeah, we all would have loved to have that room.
Yes, traumatized kid major big room is like a staple 90s thing. It's like once the kid's seen some shit, he gets the biggest room in the house. Yeah, and it's guaranteed there's going to be some morose like Deftones playing in there, probably or Green Jelly or some shit.
A white pony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, look, as far as the production design goes, really loved his little apartment. I thought it was great. His house was pretty insane, 3-floor house. I don't know where it was shot, but okay. So, we got this nice
Shot
quiet
in
neighborhood.
Montreal.
Oh, what? Okay.
They filmed in
All right.
Montreal, yeah.
So we got this nice quiet neighborhood, and murders start to take place, or do they?
Well, you're following the eyes of Michael the entire time, so
I like it. I do.
I think it's a good premise, but it's, one of the things in watching it now that I think gets a little bit confusing is you have this trickster whose like sole purpose seems to be to egg him on. But he doesn't really have to do a whole lot of egging. He's just like, hey, just go do this for the next chapter. He's like, okay, a little bit of convincing, right? I'll go and do it. So I think there is I think part of why this movie, when you watch it, you don't know how to feel about it is because it doesn't have like consistent things to grapple onto. You see this gory kill at the beginning. You don't really see that again. You have this like aloof detective who's like bumped into the same kid like 7 times, and he's like, oh, I don't think there's anything to look into here. It's like, what the fuck? Like, Langella, get on this kid.
Frank Langella, yeah.
What was going on in Frank Langella's life that he took this movie?
This is post Masters Universe, so I was hoping he was going to don the Skeletor makeup and come back as Trickster in BrainScan 2, because that would make this all complete.
There you go.
My first legitimate question before being aside of being a wise ass, but my first legitimate question is, there's such an emphasis put on from the Trickster. You got to finish this. You have to finish this task before the clock runs out. Such emphasis put on it. Why? It's never illustrated or explained what would happen if the clock ran down to 0.
Yeah,
what would happen?
that is probably part of one of the problems. If we want to use our imagination, I kind of saw it as, I think he gets like activated, and like now this is his purpose, and he needs to fulfill the purpose. Like that's what he does. This is what he is. So when you start it, like he said he's like, because he does say something like that's that that's how it always works. Like you put the CD in and I just come, like that's how it works. And so it's like, I don't know. But
I think it's like an assumed threat of death is how I was kind of always envisioned it. It's like if the time runs out, you would die or something awful would happen, but they don't explain it. And I think again that kind of speaks to the scatterbrainness of a lot of it, is that there's a lot the traumatized kid angle. First of all, who the fuck leaves their kid who just lost their mother like on a business trip is like, and only checks in on the call and like leaves a pining message on the voicemail. It's like, if your kid doesn't pick up and you left them there, it's like, hey, maybe try and get a hold of them, maybe try more than one and just give up on the voicemail at that point. Like there's a lot of things that I think if you put your reality glasses on and try and watch it with that, it's like, oh, this movie is absolute dog shit with regards to like logic and things being real. But it does have like the audacity to just like blast through these plot holes with no regard for them whatsoever, and then barrel towards an ending which is absurd, but at the same time, I guess kind of fun. I think it just lodges in my brain of being seen at such a perfect time that I still love it, despite the fact that it's not a good movie. But I love it the same way you love bad movies.
It definitely went over my head. It definitely went over my head the first time I saw it. I'll admit, I definitely saw it because Eddie Furlong was in it. Because it did work initially. That I'm like, oh my god, this is like that's a new kid from T2. Like he's the new thing.
In a horror
whatever.
Movie. Yeah,
he's one of us.
Yeah. Might have had a little crush on him too. Just whatever.
This is a lot of Monday morning. This is Monday morning quarterbacking, which is never fair for something that's a completed project. But I would, because I was so obsessed and focused on the clock running down, I would have loved a cold opening with another kid in another state who the clock does run down and gets monumentally fucked up. Because then there's states, then you're like, holy shit, Eddie Furlong, don't let that clock run down, But anyway,
they can definitely they can definitely remake this movie and put all those qualities that should have been
with VR
in the
now.
one.
Sure,
yeah, why not?
Cool. Yeah.
I mean, AR and VR represent a way better possibility to tell this story now because one, you have the technology to make it look a little better and not as goofy, but also I think there is this movie is not trying to make a point in any way, shape, or form. But if it wanted to, like if it
it's
wanted
just
to
trying to make a buck.
Yeah, it really is. Like it really is like, hey, let's make a horror movie, the weekend edition. But if there is like something that could be said here about kind of the role that media plays as far as taking over for parents and how, media and how when kids are left to not deal with their trauma or the things that have happened to them and their retreat to places where you can't get the same consolation or solace, then there's a good story there. But I think that these filmmakers aren't trying to make that movie. They're trying to make it, hey, we just did a bunch of coke. Let's write a horror script. And hey, VR is pretty cool, right? Like video games are fucking awesome. Yeah, fuck yeah, video games. You guys play Myst? Yeah, fuck yeah. And they're just, 6 CDs. Yeah, it's great. What if it killed people?
I mean, one could possibly say like, oh, maybe it was because I've heard people say like, oh, I think it was like a ploy where, like video games were the video games are the problem. And that's why our kids are getting into, being suicidal and getting violent and killing people and da, 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 da. Like it was all about the music. They blame the music. They blame video games. Like you can kind of say that. Like, I think that's possibly how it started, but it definitely got lost somewhere along the way during filming of it. And it probably was cocaine.
Yeah.
No, it was. I mean, listen, it's a hell of a drug, as Rick James has told us. So
yeah. But go ahead, Sean. Because there's another character I eventually want to get into because this is probably my biggest gripe with the whole film. But you go first.
Matt, I got you. I have so many guilty pleasures. So yeah, no, I'm never gonna dunk on either one of you for loving this movie because this is what they're there for.
Yeah.
You gotta look. I'll go to bat for 47 meters down, Uncaged or whatever the number 2, whatever the fuck that movie is, with blind sharks in an Aztec cave.
If you would just give them laser beams on their head, it would have been the best movie ever made.
I know I'm wrong, but I'll fight for that movie all day long. So respect for that. There's a really good movie in here somewhere, like an insanely entertaining horror movie in here somewhere. You can see the bones of it all over the place. It just doesn't come together in this production, but it's there.
Yeah, it's like somebody gave up like halfway, and then they were just working with what they had. I don't think that's necessarily what happened, but it's something. It feels that way, or the studio just kept taking out like the good parts that would have made it better and probably would have maybe make it a little bit more sense. Not that it doesn't make sense. Like the story is very much there, Sean, like you said. But yeah, like there was a lot of scenes that were cut out that unfortunately would have made this. I think it would have, brought it to a different level, I think.
No. Can I ask you guys a question? Because first time watching the movie, you guys have obviously seen it a couple of times. When the first time you guys watched it, did you think that the trickster was like some sort of demon? Because that's what I was leaning into the whole time.
I think I did.
Just
I don't
turns
think I
out
thought
it's
too
a
much
game
about
avatar.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think when I saw this movie, I was probably like 8 years old. So I think for me, I was just like, you're at a stage where you're just so enthralled with things that don't relate to logic or storytelling. You're like, wow, that's a really cool looking guy. I like when he pops out of the TV screen like that, like you're so easy. And I think to some extent, like this movie is made for the lowest common denominator because it does catch fire with like, young Matt, right? And that's where it hits best. I think looking at it now, it's very easy to observe its fault, but it is, it's absurd in every possible way. And it's like they were trying to make a good horror movie, and there are, like you're saying, bones of it, but someone just jammed the pieces together and said, okay, done. Instead of like, wait a minute, these aren't the right pieces in the right order.
What were you going to say though, Shannon? I cut you off. Sorry.
No, not at all. It's fine. No, I wanted to get into the character of Kimberly because
yeah, sure.
she's probably like the biggest gripe that I have with this film, because it's just, this is the part that really, like with everything else that doesn't make sense, she didn't make sense at all. Like, so in the very beginning, Cinners, so this is the girl, this is the love interest, if you will, for Michael. She lives right across the street. Conveniently, they both have bedrooms where they have huge windows facing each other in the front of the house, and I guess, you know, they very clearly can see into each other's rooms.
And they both know. Like, they both know the other one looks at the other one.
They totally know. And I don't think he knew that right away. Like, he finds out towards the end. But she's, like, definitely undressing in front of, like how, like, it looks like she's doing it on purpose, because she fucking is doing it on purpose. So, I mean, whatever.
It's De Palma's body double there for a second.
Pretty much.
You know?
Yeah. But
teenage Rear Window.
Yeah. But fast forward to the end, and he asks her out, and it totally does the "so you're saying there's a chance" type of a thing, by the way.
She definitely shoots him down.
But and then she shoots him down, like, "Oh, I don't think so, but I'll think about it." So he's like, "Oh, so that's not a no?" And you're like, "Wait, that's totally, like, if I said that, I'm like, that's totally a no."
And she gives him like a little love tap. It's like, wait a minute, what signals are we sending here? You just said no, but now you're kissing me. Like, what's happening here?
Yeah,
poor Eddie Furlong.
Yeah,
he just wants to live his life.
And she clearly takes pictures of him.
Yeah,
you know, like the trickster showed him. They're like, "Oh my god, that's like one of the things that was actually real," or, you know, whatever. Like, you know, like, "Oh, your love interest actually has an interest in you, but not right now." What is happening? Like, I don't know.
Kimberly's flawed. Like, there's just, it's written like a character that, like, it's probably written by, well, it's written by two men, but it's written by two men trying to write a teenage girl, right? It's like, it's not, she has no other purpose except to kind of be this like object of desire for Michael, but at the same time, she has no other agency except just to get in, like, his attention. And I think that, and she does, and it's like, you know, it's the same in Idle Hands. You know, it's similarly toned movie. Although that movie kind of is more self-aware of kind of its place. But the love objects in both of those only exist just to kind of pull the protagonist out a little bit, and don't have much depth to them at all. So I think Kimberly's character as a whole is just kind of, she doesn't really work. Like, you could have put, in fact, Kyle might have even been a better character just to put in that role, and like instead just have like a little bromance. Like, hey, I got to save my best friend because literally my only friend. You know, that there's got to be a bigger, closer connection there, at least, than I'd imagine, than some girl you've just been spying on through your window.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, it just went absolutely nowhere. Yeah. And unfortunately, it's one of those, you know, unfortunate things of this movie. Again, the potential is so there. You know, somebody should definitely remake this film. I'm going to put it out there. Somebody do it.
I was also waiting for like the big stinger at the end where, you know, Shannon, you just, you know, summarize it. Okay, they have this weird thing where he asks her out and she kind of says yes, but really she says no. And then it's the next day, and I'm like, this is where we're going to find out that he's truly monumentally screwed over by the trickster. But no, I mean, he just gives the CD-ROMs to the principal or the teacher, and then the trickster pops up and gives him like the, you know, whatever that was at the end. And I'm like, okay, I guess, you know.
Which is a kind of fucked ending. If you think about it, like, he's like, wait a minute. You survived, but hey, maybe I let you survive because you're going to hand this to some principal who's going to go kill people on my behalf anyway. So it's like almost like an It Follows thing. As long as you have sex, or as long as you pass on BRAINSCAN, you yourself don't die from BRAINSCAN. And it's, you know, I kind of like the idea that he's taking his vengeance against this principal, but then we know is the principal. We only know the principal's a dick because he got in trouble at the beginning of the movie. But let's be honest, if you were showing movies you're not supposed to be showing at a club on school grounds at any age, you're going to get in trouble for that. Like, is that enough to say, like, I want you to die? You know, I want you to go kill people and be committed for murder? I don't know. I don't know if I'd wish that on that principal.
But
Matt, it's definitely very.
Wait, guys, didn't you also think, like, hey, Michael, the first person the principal's going to kill is you?
Yeah.
It's like he's
Absolutely.
handing him a knife and being like, "Oh, let's see what happens." You know, I don't know.
Trickster's giving the thumbs up. The Trickster's like, "I'm going to kill you. Yeah, I'm going to get you now.
See you later.
You think you're getting your girlfriend? Like it's maybe that's the stinger that it's missing is like it is in fact this big trick that's being played on Michael, and then we just see he's he gets caught up in whatever the Trickster's homeworld looks like when Maddie is Lawnmower Man, but a little bit better.
Guys, I looked everywhere. There's nothing on this movie. I'm like,
No.
there's got to be something about like, okay, you know what? This movie was actually like easily another 20 minutes longer, and this is what they cut out. There's nothing. There's literally nothing.
They do talk about a scene where the trickster, like, it might be the scene where Michael goes into Kim's room, and that's when she like admits like, "Oh, I love you, Michael, and I take pictures of you too. I know you watch me," and whatever. Anyway, makes me mad. but there's but I think there's that scene was supposed to have the trickster instead of, for whatever reason, Eddie Furlong and new contacts and now like a stare hypnotism thing going on. Like, it was actually supposed to be the trickster, but like almost like a thing looking type of thing where like it like there's like a raw footage of it that I found, and like you could see the trickster's face but then a bunch of other faces, and it was just like this monster that was supposed to attack them on her bed.
All right. Look, guys, the practical in this for the trickster, I thought it was very good.
Yeah,
the little bit of practical effects that are in this are pretty good.
For the time being 1994, even the trickster coming out of the TV, and when they have that John Carpenter's Thing moment where their faces come together and then pull apart. I mean, sure, it's janky as hell, but for 94, that was pretty good. It wasn't bad, you know.
I mean, this is what's his name? You were saying it before, Andrew Kevin Walker. This is his first feature film that he wrote. Right. So before this, it looks like all he did was one episode of Tales from the Crypt. But think about after this. I think BRAINSCAN needed to happen. If nothing else, if you hate this movie, you have to appreciate this had to happen because he's slowly escalated his career from there. I don't know if you've ever seen this one that comes after BRAINSCAN, but it's called The Hideaway. It has Jeff Goldblum. It's based on like the Dean Koontz novel, and it's like where Jeremy Sisto like is like a satanic. It's such a weird fucking 90s techno, again, techno horror movie. So and it's actually better, I'd probably give it a little bit more entertainment value than BRAINSCAN just because I think it's got a little bit more bonkersness to it. But maybe he needed this because then after that he goes into Seven, right? And we get this kind of opus of brutality.
Well, Seven was written because he lived in New York City for 9 months.
It'll do that to you. I mean,
in the 90s. No, in the 90s, New York City was it wasn't the safest place for sure.
Meanwhile, my reaction is, "Hey."
but that's really how where Seven came from. That was supposed to be New York City. Yeah,
I agree with you.
Apple.
I think he needed to work his way up. I also think, just to throw some cover at Andrew, like this was the movie that was made, but not necessarily. We don't know if it's necessarily the movie that he wrote. I mean, the script could be a hell of a lot better than this movie, and I'm pretty confident assuming that it is. But he did it. He made his bones, and then we got Seven. So hey, all right, good on you, BRAINSCAN.
But I think that there's such I think what makes these movies so interesting to look back on, even if they're not always good, is that they do represent an interesting point in time that I don't think we'll have again, which is this dawn of technology kind of being introduced into the mainstream, even before like the capability, like the promise of technology at this point is less than what is the promise is greater than what it can actually do in the movie. So it's the same with like hackers, right? It's like so many people have their like understanding of like, and it's not a proper understanding. It's just like, their relationship to what the internet would look like if it looked like something is something run by Fisher Stevens, right? It's like, it's just Fisher Stevens sitting there in a fucking weird vest suit, just tapping giant buttons like a big old game of whack-a-mole. Like that's what the internet really is. It's not a bunch of tubes, like it's just that's what it is. But like this movie exists in that weird period where we're seeing a changeover from not just the visual effects side, but also the consumer technology side and how they're trying to bring that into. So every time you get these shifts in like how things are done or the way the world works a little bit. Same thing happened in the end of the 2000s. We got a lot more CGI, but the CGI was still a little rough. So I think there's just these movies that exist in this weird pocket of transition are never really good, but they are really fascinating because they're trying things and they're bridging different stories and they're not always working, but they're going for something.
They're not always hitting. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
I also think like this little pocket of time, ironically, they were trying to be a little bit more experimental because I think they were trying to get away from the slasher trope a little bit, because that was very, very prominent, obviously, with the Jasons, the Michaels, even the Nightmare on Elm Street and the Freddys. Like I think they were trying to do their own, if not create their own franchise. Like maybe they went into BrainScan thinking that they could have utilized a trickster maybe in a couple more films to come. Obviously, it didn't come to fruition, but it's possible that it started off in that mindset, but without necessarily making it a slasher flick. I do think a lot of these movies were standalone for a little while, and then ironically, Scream brought that right back.
Yeah,
just a couple of years later.
It's so true. And then you have and then that sets off the chain reaction of like the CW-ification of horror. Where it's just like, all right, let's just take these half a dozen good-looking actors from the CW and we'll just throw them into House of Wax or Venom or whatever whatever the hell you had there.
Right.
But I do like those little pockets of time, Matt. To your point, I love those little pockets of time. It doesn't necessarily produce great films, but really interesting because you can see the bubble.
Well, it's like people won't watch it because it is hard to get through, but The Lawnmower Man is actually not that bad of a movie. And I realize that's kind of like could feel like a bold statement because especially if you haven't seen it in a while, like really but it's a very flawed narrative, but the execution and the ideas that it was going for are really fucking out there. And they're the kind of out there where it's like, wow, someone was really either trying to write the strangest script ever. Maybe they had a good idea and they just didn't know how to fill it out. But that's a lot of what these movies represent is just there's a bunch of good ideas in them, but someone doesn't know how to pad the edges well enough to really make it totally consumable and like craveable. Instead, you get this kind of rigid, funky mess.
Yeah, I mean, you still got to give them credit though for at least going for it. Like it's because every single time it's going to be, well, I'm not going to know until I try. And I mean, Evil Dead started off that way. I mean, they were just a bunch of guys at a dilapidated cabin that was in horrible conditions. Everyone got very sick. and
this was MGM, right? Like,
and
this
they
was a big studio.
Yeah. And they sought that through, and then went on to make Evil Dead 2. And then obviously, I don't have to tell any horror fan the history that blasted forward from there. But that's the thing though. You never know. So you might as well go for it and just fucking make it.
Yeah, might as well take the shot.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean,
the worst thing that can happen is you make BrainScan. The worst thing, right? And it entertains some, lives in the memory of everyone forever. With and maybe the trickster does need to come back. Like maybe there is this because he is kind of like a Freddy Krueger. Like that is kind of like the like if Beetlejuice and Freddy Krueger were like kind of combined into like a horror icon of some sorts. That's what the just trickster would be. This kind of weird little Renfield teeth he's got going on. So I don't know. There's just so much to it that again, if you take it as a whole, and I think that's why being a fan of horror films and the genre in particular, it's so easy for us, I think, to be more objective. We can still appreciate something while also, calling the baby ugly. We can also say, well, it's still a baby. Someone obviously put some effort into making this thing. So let's not just throw it out with the bathwater. Like, this is a baby here. Yeah, like let's not hurt the baby. It's just called what it is. It's kind of an ugly baby, but it is a baby, and it could, grow up to be a beautiful thing. And BrainScan's not a baby; it's not going to grow up to be beautiful, but it will grow up just to like live on as this kind of really strange movie that tried to replicate the feeling of video games and how those were going to impact kids, and really, didn't do fuck all, but still, it's fun. It's a fun watch.
If anything, video games are so much worse.
Yeah, there's a Letterboxd review actually I saved because I love to read Letterboxd reviews of movies that I like. I know that people don't like, but also I have an affinity for. And this opening line says it all. BRAINSCAN sucks because it has the temerity to suggest that traumatized teenagers should not spend all of their time in their bedrooms listening to metal, watching horror movies, and reading Fangoria because it might not be good for them. Proposing instead that they go to lame parties and drink beer, which in my experience gets teenagers into far more trouble than staying in their bedrooms watching horror movies and listening to metal. That's one sentence. That is why Letterboxd is the best and worst thing that's ever happened to film criticism. That was one fucking sentence that I just wrote. There were commas in there. Yeah, there was commas in there, but that's full on sentence. So that person clearly doesn't drink, I don't think. But they are right. The audacity suggests that reading Fangoria, listening to heavy metal, watching horror movies will somehow cause you to want to kill your friends. I couldn't be farther from the truth. Most people I knew doing that we're the most docile people ever.
And still are, exactly. All right, you had a perfect segue, though, when you mentioned drinking. Okay, what the fuck is going on with Eddie Furlong drinking milk in this movie and chugging milk? That was the most disgusting scene in the movie, hands down.
You don't keep a glass of milk next to you just to wake up from your cold video game sweat?
Warm milk. And then when, in the third act, when he actually wakes up from what has been an entire video game dream, so to speak, he knocks the milk across the floor, and I'm like, someone's got to clean that up. What is going on? It annoyed me to no end. But the chugging of the milk is absolutely the most disgusting thing that happens in this film. Eddie Furlong also has a limp and doesn't. And
it's not consistent at all.
Sometimes it switches legs. I mean, there's a story behind the scenes for BRAINSCAN that is so much more interesting than the movie BRAINSCAN. I gotta know what was going on with Eddie Furlong during this movie. I guarantee nothing good. But
I mean, there is like he's had a very storied history as being like kind of like substance abuse and things like that. And I don't know what stage he was at this point in his life, but I do own this on Blu-ray because of course you do. And there are special features, but it is interesting that the audio commentary is with the assistant to the director, Tara George Flynn, which might be his wife, partner, daughter. I'm not sure, but they sound like they share the same last name. So assistant to the director, there's a part of me that wants to go watch BRAINSCAN for the 10th time and now with a commentary just to hear but maybe there are some nuggets of fascination buried within the behind the scenes.
For the interview that I saw, like I said, Furlong was only 15 at the time, so I do think it was before he really got into substance abuse. Because that's what he said. Like he was just like, oh yeah, he's like I was only 15. He's like, so I didn't really get to do much. Honestly, like he was just went to Montreal, made this film, and that was really about it. Where the adults would go out and drink and do whatever.
Plenty of milk though. Plenty of milk stipend.
Plenty of milk.
I mean, it's weird that he just look. I don't know what was going on with Eddie behind the scenes. He's probably ripping it and having the time of his life. But he comes off in this film, especially in that scene, Shannon, that you're talking about at the end where she shoots him down. He comes off as a kid, and maybe this does play into his character, that really has never spoken to a girl before.
No. I'm going to go with a big fuck no.
Yeah.
I mean, even the cop shows no check. Frank Langella just comes in and is like, hey, do you know what your classmates say about you? The number, first of all, kids are assholes. Like, everyone knows this. Like, once kids reach certain points in age, they can be absolutely vicious and mean and not realize it. But he comes in and is like, hey, would you like to, hey, kid who just lost his mom and is now being investigated for murder, would you like to know what all your fucking classmates think about you, weirdo? And it's like, then he just berates him. He's like, they think you're a weirdo. Freak came up a lot. And it's like, wow, this is totally making me love the cops more. Totally want to cooperate with you assholes now. You're just putting me down this whole fucking time. Call me a huge loser. It's like, so there's just so much off about this movie that, again, and no one gave the direction to Lane Jones, like, hey, you're being a little rough on this traumatized kid. He's supposed to have just lost his family. His dad's not around. Like, no one's trying to get a hold of him. It's like, I wish you could see this. And the dad leaves them a message, like, I wish you could see the the new equipment. It's like, what the fuck? Like, what new equipment is more important than being here right now?
Yeah,
There's just so much.
I wish I could see you for dinner. Like, it's like, what the fuck?
And then the dad's even like, I thought it was going to be wrapped up, but it's going to be a few more days. Like, how about some specifics? Will you be home on Friday? Like, can I get anything here, Dad? But
does he just leave with money? Like, how does this work? Because he's never for like.
Well, he's
especially after that fucking trickster ate all his fucking food, especially eating raw chicken. You know, he just ruined the whole fucking place. He's like, oh, I helped myself to a snack. Like, you dick. Like, my dad's gone.
It wasn't till after, you know, the resolution of the film where you're like, okay, he was playing a video game the whole time, where it's a pass. I mean, because all the stuff that we just talked about now, it's like, well, it was just part of the game. To do anything stupid or illegal or weird.
His friend Tyler was saying like, oh, like it hypnotizes you. So like that's what they cough it up to be, that he was like in a hypnotism the entire time. So that's what the game does.
It's no Total Recall ending, I'll tell you that much. But
no. It almost had it, but not quite there. One thing we didn't talk about though, Sean, because I'm surprised you didn't bring this up. Does nobody want to comment on Tyler's wardrobe?
Oh, he's fucking rad leather jacket,
dude, with the flannel. And then a second flannel tied around the waist. His waist. So again, I know I mentioned this already, that he was 26 years old. I'm like, he had no fucking idea. I'm like, all my friends had one flannel, just one. You don't need two.
They took the actor to Hot Topic, and they were just like, wear this, wear this, wear this.
You know, it's a 90s thing though. Every 90s had the same. Every 90s bully had the same, and like, he's not a bully, but like they kind of tried to make him dress up like one. So if you look at like a screenshot of like the Jay and Ice from Hocus Pocus, he looks a lot like Jay. This is that leather jacket, that weird ill-fitting shirt. Probably like a puka. I mean, only thing he's missing is a puka shell necklace. But
all have the same hair, you know.
Yeah,
very 90s hair,
tucked behind the ears. Yeah.
I let you down. Sorry, I should have been all over that.
I mean, there's some great quotes in here too. I mean, he's like,
I thought that would have been one of your questions.
Dick Flick. He knocks on the doorbell. He's like, yo, Dick Flick, I've been ringing your doorbell. Who is it, Kyle? No, it's Axl Rose. It's like, oh, yeah, got him good.
Yeah.
Because, again, there's going to be like a whole generation of people who are like, Axl who? Like, the fuck's that? And they do find it like, oh, that obese older gentleman? Like, what's going on? Like, why are we?
I did love, one of my favorite parts, though, was when they, the neighborhood watch comes out, because that's what police do. I mean, even in a weird make-believe video game, they incorporate the neighborhood watch, and they're like, I know you all have guns, don't use them. The second Frank Langella turns his back, they're all like, fucking, let's fucking do this.
Oh, yeah.
And they kill a cop with impunity.
Yeah. No one gets handcuffed. No one's taken away. He's just like, you want to call his wife? Is that what you want to do? But again, it's the video game. You can do anything. I cannot believe I'm saying this. Yeah, this movie needs to be remade.
I mean, think about it though. Like, there's so like, imagine like you're like, I would not want my video game hallucination to be like taken over by exposition. You know, like if all of a sudden I see like all this side drama shit going, like, no, this needs to stay on me. What's happening to me? So that's why like this was all a dream.
Like, this ain't about
it is a very bad end. Yeah, like it's a very bad ending for like this kind of thing, because it's almost like the safe way of ending this movie. And for some reason they feel like they need to be safe because 2 people die. I guess 3 if you count the mom, but you know, like there's just so much about it that like, again, if you did remake this, like I think there's a lot more someone could do with just sticking to the core bits of the story, which is a video game that makes you kill people. Right? It's hyper realistic, and then you're being taunted by some game master, because the idea of the game master is something that I think like it's a very 90s thing. Like we kind of all trusted this, you know, all knowing computer thing to just tell us shit, and always personified with some sort of HAL voice or whatever. But yeah, like I think we're now at a point where we can actually do this a little bit better and go all in on the horror bits.
Guys,
I agree.
If you think about it, this movie has been done successfully, at least in my opinion, and that's Fincher's The Game with Michael Douglas. I mean, kind of. I mean, he's in a virtual reality, so to speak. I mean, it's actually real reality, but it dials up, it dials up, it dials up until the breaking point, and he literally gets, jumps off a building, and then it's real. Then it's the big reveal that it was all a game. But that works, like, because Fincher takes it to such an absurd, insane level, and I mean, you have to suspend your disbelief, but it does work. But also, we're talking about Fincher, and then look, I really did love this director when he did Rolling Thunder, but you get different skill sets there, and also a different script. But it has been done, and it's been done successfully.
Yeah.
I mean, the game requires a similar level of suspension of disbelief that anything like this would. That like it's going to operate on this kind of like these people just have infinite wealth. I mean, it's the same suspension of disbelief you need when you watch a John Wick movie. It's like the amount of collateral damage that these people cause. Like, there's no way that the cops and the fucking military would not be all over John Wick. I'm just like, no, we have to stop this. He's ruining every fucking city he ever goes to. He's worse than the Avengers.
My favorite part of any John Wick movie, because there's always a shootout in a nightclub, is when the shootout's going on and everybody's still dancing in the background.
Yeah.
Nobody runs.
That's what I mean. No. I mean, true story. I've been in a nightclub where there was a shooting, and like it was like that's not what you do. People just like leave. They fucking leave. Like they just run.
By the way, just in case you guys didn't know, this is how people dance these days. I didn't know.
Oh yes, totally. It's absolutely how they dance for sure. Yeah.
Juilliard trained.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything. I was like, but I think we're in the presence of a master. So
your words, not mine. Your words.
I wasn't sure. I was about to Google your just real quick. It's like Juilliard. Damn, he really a lot of diplomas.
All right, I'm going to slink back into my corner now.
You can start giving lessons, Sean.
So, guys, have we done BRAINSCAN justice? I mean, milk throwing and chugging aside, have we put this one to bed?
Maybe that's how you know he's a killer, because he chugs milk. Aren't serial killers really into drinking milk? I don't know. I think there's been at least one of them that's known for that. But
you would have to be a serial killer to chug milk like that. But and I'm still wondering about. I mean, you got a great point about Frank Langella coming off Masters of the Universe, but God damn it, there's a story there as well. There's really an exciting story behind the scenes of this movie.
He probably lost money on Masters of the Universe, and he's like, I have to make this back.
Massive amounts. Well, all right, BRAINSCAN.
Okay.
Wait. You know what? I do want to look. I know we mentioned the actor who played the trickster is T. Ryder Smith.
Yeah. To be
all
fair.
right, Matt. I'm gonna put you on the spot before we wrap up. I'm gonna put you on the spot because I know Giallo is your bag. Of many bags, you love Giallo. All right, 3 Giallo, and you'll come back, and we'll have Adam. I don't want to know what they are. Don't say them.
Okay, I'm not saying them. All right, just put it in my head. Yep. There's so many things running through my head right now. Oh God, it's like like a flipping of a Rolodex. It's like that sound in my brain at this moment. But yeah,
is it like the bingo bowl roster?
Yeah, and the trickster's just sitting there churning it. He's like, ah.
So this will be as we're going into the fall. So it'll be late summer, early fall. We're actually getting into foreign frights in the fall. But I definitely want to do a Giallo episode before we actually launch that month. So I'd love to have you back. You'll of course have to let us know what the 3 are, but I want you to give it a good thing. Because I trust you. Look, you're the maestro of gore. I mean, you can have that, by the way. I'm putting that on.
I'm humbled.
That needs to be on a T-shirt.
Yeah, right? Matt Orozco, the maestro of gore. Have a good think on it. I am counting on you. I know that you're not going to let us down, and I'm really excited to talk about it because that really hasn't been, Giallo hasn't been on my radar. I've seen like the big ones, but I'm really starting to get into a lot of the obscure ones, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. A lot of fun.
I'm so excited for this journey.
All right. Oh shit! Loa's going to be listening to this, and now we're going to have to give him his.
You know what? It'll be good because we can get Lo to watch some Giallos because he doesn't. It's not been his forte. So if he's game to go down that Italian cobblestone road with us, then I think black gloves and razor blades ahead.
Nice.
I think it'll be a yes. I don't want to speak for him, but I have a feeling he'll say yes to that one. So that's exciting.
If nothing
So,
else, just so he can be there to just groan while I say things. You know,
It'll still be a good time, I'm sure.
This is what we do with all our guests. We've done the movie justice. We really thank you for coming on, but I would like you to promote anything and everything that you would like to. The podcast is yours.
Oh man, I'm not good at self-promotion. So I will just say, please check out macabredaily.com. We have a lot of great reviews, interviews. We've talked about Lowell, and he's done some great interviews recently with the folks that did Founders Day up in Connecticut. The Blomquist brothers, I believe they are. We both just saw In a Violent Nature, so we'll be probably talking about that when we do our next Macabre Monthly. I just please check out the site, support our writers and contributors there as well. They're all awesome people, so please follow them and check them out. That's all I got to say.
All right, Matt, I just want to put this out there. So Macabre Daily, it is my first check in the morning. It is my last check at night. It is incredibly good and thorough site. The writing is fantastic. The interviews, the reviews, everything top notch. Chef's just mwah.
Thank you.
Where can people find you on Instagram? I'd like you to give out your Instagram if you're okay with it.
Yeah, Macabre_Maddie. You could also follow the Macabre, just at Macabre Daily Instagram page. I don't have a Twitter account anymore. I think I had one for like a year when it first came out, but I don't know. And then, so just follow me on Instagram and also at the site.
Perfect. I'm going to put that in the show notes. So Cinners, you can find Matt on Instagram and Macabre Daily on Instagram. I'll also put the website address in the show notes as well. Please, if you are not going on to Macabre Daily, make it part of your routine, your daily routine. See what I did?
The check's in the mail, Sean. The check's in the mail.
But yeah, it's not blowing smoke. I absolutely adore the site, and the crew that you have, your people, they're fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah, they're the ones that make it great. So all the kudos to them.
Woohoo!
Yeah. All good peeps.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for letting me talk about this masterpiece of the early 90s as well.
You two fuckers owe me one now.
Yeah, that's fine. Listen, I will watch anyone else's. I will never yuck anyone else's yum when it comes to favorite piece of trash. So
nice, very nice.
That's what we're here for, right? It's what we get together for.
Amen.
All right, Shannon, take us out of here. You know what you got to do.
All right, and that's a cut.
See you later, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Macabre Daily, get on it.